Hi guys, this is Erica Weston with Fox Sports Midwest, and you're listening to my favorite St. Louis Blues hockey podcast, Let's Go Blues Radio.
All set for the face-off at center ice. And for the St. Louis Blues, that's Red Berenson, number 7 at center ice, 17 Don McKinney, and Jerry Melnick, number 16 on the right wing, Barclay Plager, and Jimmy Roberts are on the defense.
He's in alone, a shot, he scores! Brett Hall, number 86! Right in front, the score by York! Oh, baby, the Blues win it in overtime! I don't believe it! Now play back for Perron. He comes in, fires it, he scores! A rocket by David Perron, and the Blues win it in overtime.
They did it! It's over! The game is over! The series is over! The wait is over! And the St. Louis Blues are the Stanley Cup champions for the first time in franchise history!
It's all about the flow.
And the snow.
Flow.
And the snow.
Hello and welcome, fans, to Let's Go Blues Radio, Season 8, Episode 56. This is franchise episode number 242 all-time. Obviously, I am not coming to you live, and I am not coming to you with Kurt Price and Bill Day. This is Jeff Ponder on his lonesome, recording for you Tuesday, March 17th, for a new episode this week. Couple items I want to get to pretty early on here. Let's go blues.com shop for shirts and stickers. Make sure you check that out. Also, as we announced last week, and if you haven't seen it yet, hop over to our social media channels. If you want a jersey, a letsgoblues.com jersey, you can message us on any social media platform or wherever you get, or email me at jponder94 at gmail.com. I don't know how I'm talking right now. I can't talk, apparently. jponder94 at gmail.com. It is very early on Tuesday morning, like very early. I'm doing this before work, so yes, this is it's early, so I apologize for any missteps. I'm also not even having a beer of the episode, as it's early in the morning, so I'm drinking a Gatorade Zero Glacier Freeze to keep myself hydrated while I do this. So again, this is not your typical live show, but I will say that if you're podcasting right now, that I am releasing a video with this over on YouTube. So make sure you check out the YouTube channel at Let's Go Blues Radio, and you will have a video if you want to see my smiling face, or if you'd like to see any of the graphics I'll be adding during the interview that I'll be posting with this episode, which we'll get to in a minute. So I do want to add that we are going to continue having shows every week. I said this last week, and it's the case still. That is not changing. I want to bring at least some smiles to some faces, if possible, during this whole coronavirus outbreak. Let's keep talking about things that make us happy, and that's what I'm going to do. So we just aren't really sure, and I say we as in myself, Kurt Price, and Bill Day. We just don't know how exactly this is going to work. So it's going to be a week-by-week decision. Right now, this week, Kurt and Bill decided there's not a whole lot to talk about, so we're just going to leave it up to me to come up with something, as I do every summer. But next week, they may want to come on and talk. So we will see. But we may be having an early start to our summer series and then take a break from it when the NHL season comes back. Let's be positive here. It's going to come back. We're going to see the end of the 2019-2020 season. But we'll might be starting it early and then just, kind of coming back to it after the season concludes in whatever manner it's going to conclude, however we figure all this out. I suggest the NHL just does a two-man sack race on consecutive Sundays until a champion is crowned. And if you know what movie that's from, congratulations. You are a friend of mine now. So, yeah, as I said, maybe an early start for the past and the future episodes, which is going to include Blues alumni and then analysts or experts or writers or bloggers or podcasters from across the junior leagues, the college levels. I've already got a couple people lined up for that, so we'll be talking Blues prospects on that. So make sure you stay tuned for the past and future, which is going to be coming up possibly starting next week, but I don't know for sure. Again, this is a week-by-week decision here. Curtin Bill could be coming back at any time, and I do want to go ahead and throw out, we might be just having people on and just talking hockey, talking past Blues, talking about what they're doing with their lives right now to stay involved in hockey. So if you are a semi-famous person and you want to join me for a talk, I'm not going to stop you. Go ahead and reach out to me. Again, my email address, jponder94@gmail.com, or just find Let's Go Blues Radio anywhere on social media. Send us a DM, and we'll get you included. So John Hamm, Jenna Fisher, Andy Cohen, you guys, I'm opening this up to you. I know you're listening. So if you want to join us, join me and talk some Blues hockey, talk some NHL, tell me what you're doing to get your hockey fix. Come on, guys. I know you're listening. And not just them. Let's be honest here. You know, I don't know how much they listen. I'm going to say they listen all the time because that makes myself feel better. But, if you have a pretty large Twitter account, or if, you're maybe a season ticket holder that everybody knows, and I'm excluding Mr. Blues Hat here because we don't want him. Nobody wants to talk to him. We'd love to have you on the show. I know there was a radio DJ over at, I think it was 106.5, who had very nicely tweeted out about our show and said that something about how we're the only blues podcast you need to listen to. I can't remember your name, so I'm sorry about that. But if you want to come on, we'd love to have you as well. So again, we're just kind of looking to fill some time here. Again, we want to keep some shows going because let's just talk some hockey. Let's forget about what's going on in the world for a little bit and have some fun. And that's why I'm still doing this. It's keeping me sane. You might be asking yourself, what am I doing right now? Well, again, I'm obviously recording a podcast right this moment, but I am quarantined with my wife and son right now. So I am working from home for the foreseeable future. Those who know me know that I had a job where that's what I did. My company was based in New Jersey. I've since moved on, but I'm working from home again, so it's just like old times for me. So something I can handle. I know for a lot of people, this is hard, it's stressful, it's tough, but hey, we'll get through it. My wife and son, my wife's a teacher, they are quarantined till at least April 3rd from school, so this week was the start of their spring break. What a spring break it is, let me tell you. Everything's closed in St. Louis. They are quarantined till at least April 3rd from school, so they've got a couple weeks off as well. We're just trying to not kill each other. I think everybody listening to this can agree that, you love your family, you want to be around your family, but let's face it, hopefully you have a space you can go to be by yourself when you need to, and then vice versa. If you're working from home and you find yourself getting lonely, reach out and make sure you're talking to people, because this is tough on everyone. This is a global thing that's affecting every single person, so hopefully you're staying happy. Hopefully you're staying healthy. Wash your hands. I don't want to be the person to sit here and talk about the coronavirus this whole show, but again, it's important that we get past this quickly, and again, so we can see some NHL hockey, because that's got to happen. Nobody wants to be away from hockey too long. And hey, you know what? I'll go ahead and tell you too, and I'm not doing this as self-promotion. I mean, I am, but I'm not. If you want to find me on YouTube, and me, not Let's Go Blues Radio, I have posted a ton of old Blues and NHL games from the past, from the 90s, the 2000s, the 80s, the 70s even. So if you're wanting to get a hockey fix, find me on YouTube, Jeff Ponder, jponder94. Not sure how it's going to come up, but if you just search for, like Blues full games or something, a lot of my videos are going to come up. So if you have not seen my YouTube channel yet, you may want to tune in. I know our friend STL Blues History has been tweeting out a lot of stuff from my videos. So Make sure if you don't know, you can find my videos probably through him as well if you're following him on Twitter. So again, thank you everybody who watches. Thank you everybody who subscribes. I'm going to keep posting games, especially now, because I think everybody is dying to see some hockey. So I'm going to do everything I can to get more videos up during this whole quarantine situation. Before we get to the interview, I do have one thing that I want to announce. Or not announce, but I guess talk about, even though I have nobody to bounce this off of, some Blues news that has come out since the quarantine. Blues announce they will pay their game day stadium workers during the ongoing suspension of the season due to the COVID-19 outbreak. The organization created a Blues Employee Assistance Fund. So if you haven't seen this news yet, it's kind of been the widespread talk of all sports fans. Pay the game day staff. Let's see what these guys and gals, let's see them still get paid because, a lot of them rely on that money. Maybe it's even just a secondary paycheck for them, but they rely on that for their expenses in their lives. And so it's been kind of a big push to see teams do this. And I'm happy to see that the Blues have taken part. It's not just the organization. Again, they created this Blues Employee Assistance Fund. So this was the Blues ownership led by Tom Stillman, Blues players led by Captain Alex Pietrangelo, and local donors. And this one is the big one, led by a $100,000 donation from a Blues season ticket holder, and his name is Andy Frisella. I hope I'm saying that correctly. They worked together late last week and over the weekend to establish this fund. All St. Louis Blues players made a personal donation to the Blues Employee Assistance Fund. Frisella is a longtime Blues fan and local entrepreneur. If you would like to give, so fans are encouraged to support the Employee Assistance Fund as well. You can donate by going to blues.givesmart.com or by texting BLUES to 76278. Any excess funding will be donated to local efforts focused on the coronavirus-related issues. So that's amazing. Great job by not only Tom Stillman to step up, but the Blues players. That's huge. I mean, it literally says all St. Louis Blues players. So it's coming from, there's something coming from every one of them, and that's huge. So, again, great work by them. And Andy Frisella, sir, I'm going to plug you as much as I can. I looked you up, and I'm hoping this is you. And Andy, hey, if you want to come on the show and talk, we'd love to have you. Andy Frisella, you can look him up over at andyfrisella.com. That's Andy and then FRISELLA.com. Again, he's an entrepreneur. He's involved in a lot of stuff. I'm not going to read his bio to you. I'll leave that up to you. But I will go ahead and plug him that he has his own podcast. I have not listened, so I don't want to say that I completely encourage anything he says. But, he seems like a pretty smart guy. And, Real AF Podcast with Andy Frisella. So if you're interested in hearing from a local entrepreneur who is a charitable person, obviously, I want to go ahead and give him that plug because he's fantastic. Good for him on stepping up and making that contribution. Again, Andy Frisella, you can find his podcast, Real AF Podcast with Andy Frisella. So great work to him, great work to the Blues, great work to everybody involved on getting the employees to be paid during this rough time. So now we're going to get to our guest, so you're not going to have to just look at me this whole time. Our guest is Luke Opilka. He's a former Blues fifth-round pick. He's currently a coach at the Maryville University for the Saints, and he played most notably for the Kitchener Rangers in the junior league. So he recently, within about a year and a half, retired due to hip dysplasia. He was a goaltender, for those who don't know. This interview was recorded on December 27th. So I recorded this over the holidays because we typically have one or two shows where Kurt and Bill are busy, I'm busy, so we say, you know what, Jeff, just get someone on the show, record it, and, we did that last year with Jillian Fisher and a couple other people, and so I had Luke come on, and it was thought, okay, this is probably going to get posted in a week or two. Well, we recorded a show every single week, so I've just been kind of holding on to this, stockpiling it, and this is the opportunity that came up for me to finally release this. So again, this was recorded on December 27th. So if you hear any weird discussion about holidays or anything in there, that's why. The off season is currently ongoing for Maryville right now. We talked, obviously, this was in the middle of their season. They did lose in the MCH conference tournament to their rival, which we'll talk about their rivalry with McKendree. They lost to them 7-6 in overtime to end their season. So unfortunately, they lost to a rival, but again, this is a good market for hockey. So when you're talking about a team like Maryville losing to McKendree, and talking about Lindenwood and Scuzz roller hockey, but still all these areas, all these colleges in the area that are having great hockey programs. It's fun to see, and this is something definitely Luke and I talk about. He's I don't want to say a St. Louis native because he's not. He's from Effingham in Illinois there, but definitely a St. Louis market and Blues fan through and through. So fun to talk to him. And also keep in mind the season for the Maryville Saints starts back up in September. So when we talk about where you can watch them play and how you can watch them, definitely keep that in mind when September hits. So I am going to stop talking, bring on Mr. Opilka, and enjoy the interview, folks. This is Jeff with Let's Go Blues Radio, and today I'm joined by former Blues prospect and goaltender Luke Opilka. Luke spent a lot of time in the ranks of the Kitchener Rangers, as well as the U.S. national team under 18 team, St. Louis Junior Blues AAA team, and kind of obviously being a prospect in the training camps and the rehab with the St. Louis Blues in the past. So he has a pretty good knowledge of the St. Louis Blues, the players, as well as the game itself. Currently, Luke is the goalie coach over at the Maryville University, so he is getting a lot of time at that new Maryville University Hockey Center, which we will be talking about later. Before we get into anything, I want to welcome my guest, Luke Opilka. Luke, thank you very much for coming on the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. So obviously, the question that a lot of people are probably wanting to ask you, people who knew your situation, drafted by the Blues and in 2015 in the 5th round, and kind of on the Blues' radar in terms of goaltending prospects for a while there. But unfortunately, you had to have 3 surgeries, 2 major surgeries, I believe is how it read, in the spring of 2016, and then the twice in the fall of 2017 with hip dysplasia. Before we get into kind of how that affected you and where it brought you after you decided to retire, could you explain to our listeners exactly what is hip dysplasia?
I'll try my best. It's just a congenital disease where my hips just never fully formed. So it left me with shallow hip sockets, and this was compounded by the fact that I had hip impingement, which a lot of people will know about because it's pretty common. But so it just basically made it to where every time, like, my hips would kind of slide in and out of their socket a bit, and that causes a lot of damage, obviously, as you can imagine. And being a goalie, every time you go down, you're kind of beating up your hips. So yeah, I had to have basically what they did is I just went in and kind of rearranged my hip socket and put in like 6 screws, I think, for both major ones, and just totally just basically remodeled my pelvis. So it's pretty in-depth stuff, and I was lucky enough to have one of the pioneers of the surgery, and John Closey. So he's or Dr. Closey, and I had an awesome medical staff, but it just wasn't meant to be.
So once you were quoted as saying that you may have never known about your ailment if you hadn't played goalie. So how much extra wear and tear did playing goalie put into your hip dysplasia, and what was the kind of, sensations you were feeling that caused you to get this checked out?
Yeah, it's one of those things, and I guess I had a more mild form. So it wouldn't have been an issue had I not been a goalie. Like, if I was just a player, I probably never would have tested my ranges enough to really do any damage. But, I was once told by a surgeon that my condition maybe 10 years ago would have been kind of a full stop for like being an athlete and playing sports. But like I said, like Dr. Colosi, he had helped pioneer a new surgery that kind of gave me hope. And so I was lucky in that at least there was a chance, and I was able to give it a shot with the surgeries. But you know, it just started out of nowhere, and I think I was like 18. I think it was my first development camp in the summer, St. Louis development camp. I just kind of felt something pop a little bit, and I ended up playing the rest of that season in Kitchener. And then I came back, and they were like, "Yeah, you know, you definitely need to get this worked on. This isn't going okay." So then I had that first surgery that summer, and I got back to playing in Kitchener about halfway through, and finished that season. And then the one that I had done that summer wasn't quite setting right, and I had still having a lot of pain with it, so I had the revision for that right, and then I ended up doing my left while I was down and out with the right, just so I could hopefully take a whole year off and try to get completely healthy and then make another run at it. And I just ended up still having problems, so I ended up getting another revision, and then that was it.
Wow. So when it happened, you mentioned it happened at your development camp, and you know, it kind of reoccurred next year. They kind of noticed, hey, you need to get that looked at. Did it get worse over time, your year in Kitchener, or was it just kind of this strange feeling you had when you would make certain movements?
Yeah, it kind of just got worse over time, you know, and there's nothing I really think I could have done differently. Like I had a great, you know, training staff. I was working with Borelli, like Randy Craig here in town. And like I said, I had, you know, some of the like one of the top surgeons for any kind of hip in the world. So it's not like, you know, I couldn't have had a better opportunity with everything. I just, you know, when I look back on it, I think it just wasn't in the cards, and I didn't know that back then, but I think I've kind of come to understanding now that it's just kind of was the way it is.
So what's if there's somebody maybe listening to the show right now who maybe thinks they might be suffering from something like this, what's a good symptom for them to go get checked out? Go get it checked out.
Just any kind of times where you feel like clicking or pinching, like if you know, especially if you're a goalie, or if you're ever pushing your hip kind of to an end range, and you know, you feel like a really painful pinch, or obviously like popping, catching, clicking, things like that. That's probably worth getting it checked out, because even if it's not a bone issue, it could just be a torn ligament or a torn tendon or something that could get worse over time.
Yeah.
So it's always good to get it checked out. Be cautious.
So I mean, obviously it was a tough decision to decide to hang him up, but you know, did you kind of question like, okay, maybe I can go get this other surgery and I'll come back? Or was it something that after you got the second surgery, you said, you know what, I just don't think it's in the cards for me?
Yeah, because after the fourth, right, just fourth in about 2 years, it felt like I would be feeling okay. I'd be feeling okay, and I'd keep working up to getting into full competition, and I'd have a really major setback, and just, you know, it would be really painful again. And, you know, it was kind of like running into wall after wall after wall, that I just decided it wasn't going to work.
Yep. I remember as obviously our situation's a lot different, but I remember myself when I realized I'm just not good enough to play, how upsetting it was. Like, man, I'm never going to make the NHL. But for someone, for you who came as close as you did and have that, I mean, was it something that you really had to kind of rely on family afterward and friends to kind of say, you know, hey, pick yourself back up? Or was it something you said, hey, I'm just ready for the next opportunity?
Yeah, I like to stay pretty positive. So I just kind of, you know, as one door closes, another one opens. And, you know, as soon as I kind of made that decision that it wasn't going to work, you know, the Blues were very, you know, they're awesome about the whole situation. And then I got in touch with John Hogan and, you know, Jeff Crenshaw, and because I heard they were making up a team at Maryville, and I've been looking at schools in the area. I had a couple of friends that go to Maryville, so I was like, why not? You know, I knew they had a really good program that I was interested in, and so I just kind of worked out perfectly. I just called them and was like, hey, are you interested in me helping? And, you know, they brought me aboard, and, you know, it's been going pretty well so far.
So can you, recreationally at least, can you still play goal, or is it something you had to completely give up?
I completely give up. I just, you know, I haven't even tried it yet. So
wow.
I might pick up beer league as a player or something. Who knows?
Can you play out? You any good at forward? Maybe my team could use you.
Everybody says I got the best slap shot, so.
There you
who
go.
knows?
That's great.
Just kidding.
So so obviously, like I said, you went to Maryville, you chose Maryville, you're studying there, and you're also help coach with the program run by John Hogan, as well as Jeff Crenshaw there, helping you out as the assistant coach, and I guess also the goalie coach as well. What's it like making that transition from player to student and coach?
It's been awesome. I mean, there's a great group of guys over there in the coaching room, and Kevin Gregory and Brian Lowry, and it's we have a great we're building a great culture over there, and obviously the facilities help. You got like NCAA D1 quality locker rooms, coaches' quarters. It's been a pretty smooth transition actually, and it's one I've really enjoyed. Kind of keeps me busy. I always got school, I always got coaching to do, so it's there's never a dull moment, which is nice. I like to stay busy. So
yeah. So what does the team look like this year for Maryville?
We're doing pretty good. I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's the second year. The first year you have 22 to 25 new guys that have never played with each other trying to gel, and then the second year we already grew to 2 teams. So you pretty much have to repeat the process where half the guys from the first year ended up on D1, and they have the other half's brand new. And then same thing for the D2 team. There's just, half new faces. So it's a lot of, I think, especially in the last, stretch of first semester, we beat Mo State twice and, went on a little bit of a winning streak. So I think we're starting to turn the page and kind of, everybody's trying to get together and we're starting to make a push. So I think we've got a good group of guys, a good core group of guys that I think can, be competitive for the next 2 or 3 years until the next crop comes in. Especially with college hockey, it's always a cycle. So
right.
I think we're off to a good foot.
Who's the biggest rival for Maryville?
I mean, it's got to be one of the Missouri schools. So I would say it's probably like Lindenwood or Mo State, even anybody from Missouri really. I think would be considered a rival game. McKendree for sure, just because. But it's hard. You got to develop those rivalries over time. I feel like. Yeah. But I think we go pretty hard against McKendree and Lindenwood, so those are always fun games.
So, as I said, the coaches there, John Hogan and Jeff Crenshaw. Crenshaw, former friend of mine. I guess I could still call him a friend. But what kind of game do they coach? And if somebody wants to come see Maryville play, what kind of game can they expect?
We're pretty much trying to preach the good old, get the puck deep, hit body, stuff like that. The good college style that you see a lot. We're trying to work on the skills, obviously, but first and foremost, you got to develop the system. So right now it's still been a lot of getting everybody on the same page systems-wise, because everybody comes from, different junior leagues where maybe it was a more run-and-gun style, and kind of took some time for everybody to realize that you can't play that at the college level, and it's a lot more, you gotta put in the work before you get the reward. So it's definitely been kind of a learning curve on that side, but I think John's got a good handle on it. So I think he's leading us in the right direction. So
for you, someone who played, pretty professionally up in Kitchener, as we said, and then saw some time, trying out with the Blues, what's the pace been like? How different is it for you watching from what you used to see in Kitchener as to what you're seeing now in Maryville?
It's definitely an adjustment. I think for me, it's mostly I kind of, for more or less, because I just more or less focus on the goalies. That it's more just trying to take what I've learned from all the good coaches and just basically try to teach them some of that stuff that I've gained from like working with David Alexander, and I had a great goalie coach in Kitchener, King TC. So I try to stay away from worrying about systems too much and the paces, because goaltending is goaltending. So it's like, yeah, maybe, the shots are a little less pace on them, but, they still need to focus on the same things that pretty much any goalie at any level focuses on. So that's basically what I focus on there as far as coaching. But obviously the pace is a little different. Bigger guys, juniors are a little bit smaller, a lot of younger guys. So physicality is different and things like that, but it's definitely a fun brand of hockey to watch for anybody that is interested. We make it exciting. We have, Jeff puts on a great pregame show for each before each home game, and they work on a lot of that social media stuff. So it's pretty fun environment, I think.
You say that, and I imagine Jeff Crenshaw just kind of getting in front of the crowd and wrestling a bear or something, and like you see in semi-pro. But I'll go ahead and think that's what happens until I come see a game.
I wish. Maybe I'll bring it up to him.
There you go. I like that. He's a promoter. He knows how to work it.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you about the rink itself. So for those that may not know, or maybe don't live in the St. Louis area, the hockey boom is very real right now here in St. Louis. And I will talk to you about your life growing up in Effingham and moving to St. Louis in a bit. But the boom right now is there's two big rinks that just popped up over the summer, I guess right before the hockey season. The Maryville University Hockey Center being one, and then, of course, the Centene Community Center out in Maryland Heights. But, you have spent a lot of time now at the Maryville University Hockey Center, which I'll just say on a personal note, I love the fact that Maryville got their own hockey rink. It's named after them. It lets everyone know there's a program in Maryville. It's fantastic, and the rink itself is beautiful. I only went once. I went for the opening day, but it was very cool to see. Very nice arena. You have been there multiple times. You've seen games there. You've been on the ice with players. What can you tell me about the new Maryville University Hockey Center right there off Chesterfield Airport Road?
It's nice. I mean, I've been to Centene. I haven't seen it all. I just saw like a couple of I went there for one of our games against Lindenwood's D2 team. But Maryville, they have two sheets. The stands fit around 1,500 for the bigger side, but it would have been the nicest. I don't want to compare it to Centene, but definitely, it's nice. It's top quality, and for the Maryville side specifically, like I said, we have some pretty great locker rooms. That I think would rival a lot of NCAA D1 teams, and coaches' quarters, players' lounge. I mean, it's pretty professional setup for a startup ACHA team, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, like I said, I've been there, and I was impressed with just the way that the rink felt. There was just an immediate feeling for me that this is a college hockey rink, and that's a great feeling. If anyone's ever been to a NCAA game, those are always fun to watch. So I'm sure it's been very exciting for the players in your, as you called it, the kind of startup that Maryville's had in hockey to kind of have their own home rink.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, Maryville, and I know John spearheaded a lot of the stuff, and they've done a fantastic job. In my opinion, I think, if you would have told me that a smaller school in St. Louis was going to start up a hockey program and be where they are today, I would have called you a liar, because it's kind of incredible to see that much rapid growth. And I know we went from 0 teams to 2 teams in 2 years, and I know we're adding a women's team next year. So, I mean, 3 new teams in 3 years is pretty crazy as far as growth in any college sport, really. I think it's almost unheard of. So, I got to give them a lot of credit. I know John works day and night on this stuff, and that's his baby. So, I think he's doing a great job with it.
So I do want to kind of talk a little bit about you personally. So as I mentioned, you were drafted in the 5th round by the Blues in 2015. Did you know, and you being from Effingham, for those that don't know, is in Illinois, it's about an hour from St. Louis? Is that right? 2 hours?
Yeah, 2 hours.
2 hours. 2 hours from St. Louis. So you would consider St. Louis, the Blues, your hometown team, correct?
Yeah, and I grew up playing all my, hockey-wise, I consider myself more from St. Louis. I mean, I started playing my youth hockey in St. Louis when I was 8, so I've played, all
Good.
I've known really is St. Louis hockey my whole life, so it's definitely been my hometown team.
When I brought you up on one of our live shows, one of the hosts asked, well, if he's from Effingham, he could be a Blackhawks fan, right? And I'm like, I'm not going to have him on the show if he's a Blackhawks fan. So
Yeah, you got to protect the brand.
That's right. So did you know that you were on the Blues' radar when you were drafted in 2015? Did you think that being drafted by your hometown team was really a possibility for you?
I mean, I'd hoped. I had met with them a couple times throughout that season. After the All-American Prospects game, I know I had a lengthy conversation with one of them, and Keith Kachuk, actually, he had coached me in St. Louis for a while, and I know I'd met with him a couple of times, and at that time he was scouting all the 97s. And so, I thought there was a good chance. I wasn't sure. Obviously, you hope. If I was going to go anywhere, it'd be St. Louis. So when it happened, it was pretty incredible. I didn't really see it coming. I would just kind of hope for it.
Again, you told me a little bit off air about your life as growing up in Effingham, and then I'll just go ahead and let you tell it. You told me about how your mother made the sacrifice to bring you and I believe you said you have 3 siblings out to St. Louis and live there during the week so you can get your hockey in. Go ahead and speak to. Go ahead and give her all the praise you want. The amazingness that was your mother in getting your hockey career started.
Oh yeah, my parents, both my mother and my dad were incredible. Me and my 2 brothers, my one brother plays at U of I right now. My younger one plays for the Omaha Lancers, and we owe everything to them. All the opportunity we got in hockey was because they put in all that sacrifice. And before we moved and got a place over in St. Louis, my parents were driving like 3 days a week, 2 hours there, 2 hours back to get us all to practice. And then on the weekends, we would spend all of our time in St. Louis in hotels or what have you. And, it's incredible looking back on it, all the sacrifices they've made. And that's not even, to speak about all the money that costs, all that traveling. So it's pretty incredible. And it's something I don't take for granted. And, all my success I had as a player was largely due to them.
Yeah, I've had people on the show contact us, whether in our YouTube chat or email or just kind of talking on the street of, first of all, people talk about how hockey players are the greatest professional athletes there are. They're more down to earth, but there's also a feeling of more family for hockey players, and there's more togetherness. And, like Ovechkin had his mom move out with him when he came out here to the United States. And people ask me, why is that? Well, it's exactly what you just said. The sacrifices that families have to make to get their kids to play hockey. I'm sure when you were up in Kitchener, of kids that were probably living with complete strangers. What do they call them? Boarding parents?
Billets. Yeah.
Billets. They take kids in because families can't just up and move whenever the kid gets to a new team. So the sacrifices that families make, to me, really is what makes this sport so great and why it's such a family-oriented sport. So I love hearing stories like that about your parents.
Yeah, no, they were awesome. They're the real heroes.
Yep. So how many rinks are in Effingham, if there's any?
0.
There's 0 rinks in Effingham.
Yeah, no,
wow.
0.
So what's your closest rink then?
So the closest one is Bloomington, but it's really only like maybe 15 minutes or maybe 30 minutes, maybe less than St. Louis. But it made no sense. I don't even think Bloomington had a AA team when I was growing up, so there was no. We wanted to play competitive, obviously, so we had St. Louis. It was either St. Louis or we go to Chicago, which Chicago was 3 hours away. So we just chose. I think my parents just kind of chose the closest one, and we had met some people because I played at Fairview for a bit, and then jumped over to Afton for most of my youth sports before I played AAA. But so we'd already made some connections with Fairview over in St. Louis, so we kind of just stuck with that side. Nice.
Yeah, you said Bloomington's the closest rink. That definitely is Blackhawk territory, right? So you want to stay out of there.
Exactly. I had to stay to the good side.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I like to hear. Obviously, being drafted by the Blues in the 5th round. There was also when you won a gold medal with Team USA at the Under-18 World Championships in 2015. Those are just a couple of, I'm sure, laundry list of career highlights you have. Is there one that stands out to you as your greatest accomplishment as a hockey player?
I don't, probably my favorite memories were that's a tough one. Probably I'd say my time spent in Kitchener was some of my favorite times spent. Just we had a great group of guys, and I really enjoyed playing in the OHL, and I made some lifelong friends there, as I have other places. But for some reason, Kitchener, I had a great billet family, and it was just something about my time in Kitchener was probably some of my favorite times.
Goalies get lit up in the OHL sometimes because there's so much talent on the forward side, and Did you ever feel like you were going to get buried playing in Kitchener and maybe forgotten by NHL teams?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, it's definitely it's a two-sided sword there, because there are more chances. So if you have good games, you look really good. But if you have a bad game, it can look pretty bad. So I think my most shots I had was my last year there against Owen Sound. I had like 63 shots in a playoff game.
Oh, good Lord.
63.
Wow. Some Ottawa Senators defense there.
Well, I mean, Owen Sound that year was phenomenal. We were good too. We came back the next game and actually beat them 1-0. So
nice.
Yeah, that was a fun series just because we were the underdogs for sure, and we battled hard. So, but it was fun. I mean, my whole experience up there was awesome.
So you mentioned playing for the Afton Americans, and then as I said, you played for the AAA Blues later. That's pretty common. I don't want to say common because not everybody can do it, but that is a path that I think many people would be looking to take. Play for the Afton team, the Chesterfield team, and then move on to the AAA Blues. So again, there's a chance that we've got a couple kids maybe doing that right now and are listening to the show. What advice do you have for them who are maybe going through those programs now and are hopefuls to be in the AHL, NHL, or ECHL, or really anywhere they can go to be professional hockey players?
I would just say, work hard, have fun, and especially the have fun part. I know when I look back on my youth days, I wish I wouldn't have taken it so serious. Everybody thinks that it's the end of the world if, you get cut from a AAA team or if you have a bad game playing AAA, but at like the 13-year-old level or whatever age you're at. But it's looking back, I wish I would have just taken a little less serious and, just enjoyed it a little bit more, because the stress only adds on once you get to higher levels. And so I really wish that'd be my advice. Just enjoy it, have fun, but also work hard if you want to keep going.
So also you had kind of more career advice questions for you. You opted out of playing for the University of Wisconsin so you could play in Kitchener of the OHL. In hindsight, do you think that was the right move for you?
I think it was, especially in hindsight with all the medical issues I had. Just because I really believe I got the best medical care I could have, or anybody could get for my situation. And I wouldn't have gotten that had I not been with the Blues under contract. I'd have been subject to whatever, I could get at University of Wisconsin. I'm sure they have great medical care there, but I don't think I could beat what I got being cared for by the Blues. So I don't regret it for that. And plus, like I said, I enjoyed my time in Kitchener, and I wouldn't have had that time had I gone to Wisconsin.
So we mentioned you kind of took part in some development camps and such, and I had already asked you off air if you had met any of the current Blues players, and you had mentioned meeting Jordan Binnington, and I'm sure, again, there's a slew of other players that you met. What was your experiences like when you were in some of the Blues' events and programs?
They're all great guys. I don't think, like you said, like character, NHL's known for character and character guys and stand-up guys. And, I think me being a nobody in that locker room and, still guys would come up and small talk and, kind of make me feel a little bit included. And, even though they didn't really have to, I think it was just a good experience for me. And I felt comfortable and I enjoyed going to the rink every day and, getting to talk to some of the guys. And, obviously, they're big names, and it's really fun to get to meet some of them. And, so it was a great experience being in that locker room. When I could be. Any
hazing going on for guys like you?
No, I don't see any of the hazing, and I probably would be below the radar for the hazing anyway. Probably got to play games to get hazed first. So.
That's right. So I asked Jordan Binnington specifically earlier because I wanted to ask you. You saw him a couple of years ago, and he was still a prospect himself. And again, maybe these are just in development camps or whatever, but. Did you ever see anything in him to make you think that maybe he was going to have at least the start of the NHL career that he's had? I mean, he kind of got forgotten, I think, by a lot of people, and then he came in and had the year he had in 2018, 2019. Was there anything you saw in his game that would led you to believe maybe that's the type of goalie he is?
No, yeah. I always saw him as really competitive and all that, but to tell the truth, like I only really got to see him at, a couple Blues, the main camps, so I really didn't get to see him play that often. I saw him play the AHL All-Star game. I guess it was 2 years ago now. Whenever he was in the AHL All-Star game last, but I saw that on TV. But I really didn't have much insight to that question. But that start is insane. That was special to watch, and to win a cup. The first time you really get your push into the NHL was. I don't think anybody was rooting against him. I think it was incredible to watch.
Yeah,
That's all
I agree.
Can say about that. It was nuts.
Yep, no, it was, and I'm sure your family and you were all very excited with the results of the 2018-2019 season.
Yeah, how could you not be? I mean, it's insane. It was awesome.
Yep, no, it's great. So yeah, I wanted to also ask you, because we have a friend of the show, runs an Oilers podcast, who his claim to fame is he once accidentally checked Wayne Gretzky. So do you have anything like that? Did you ever make maybe a breakaway save on a current NHL superstar or anything like that?
Well, I think probably not. I think my only claim to fame was I was on the TSN top 10 plays getting scored on in a shootout. But
I don't know if that counts.
I don't think it counts. No, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. It's a good question. I always say my claim to fame was I roomed with Austin Matthews at the program.
There you go.
As close as I got to a superstar.
There you go. That's not bad. Well, you're a better goalie than Crenshaw. You can at least always say that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you too. You mentioned that you're a student now at Maryville, as well as being the coach for the goalies out there. You're working on your bachelor's degree. What are you studying? And after that, what's next for Luke Opilka?
All right, I'm getting a degree in biology, and I hope to do something in medicine, but I understand that's kind of a long road, and I got a long ways to go, but that's kind of where I'm aiming at this point.
No, that's great. That's awesome. 22 years old, right?
Right.
Yeah, you got a long way to go there. Good luck.
Yeah, I
know. Luke, this has been awesome. I loved having you on, and this is something that when I heard about you retiring, I said, man, I'd like to get him on the show. I'm glad we were able to finally get this to work out, and I hope some people like to come out and check out the Maryville hockey team. You guys, again, that have a great arena to play at, and I'm sure there's some great rivalry games with the Missouri hockey teams, as well as anything in Illinois. You mentioned McKendree. So if for anyone who wants to maybe get in touch with maybe you or the Maryville team, I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but where people can maybe find the schedule for the Maryville team, anything you want to promote, go ahead and do that right now before we close up shop.
Yeah, if you can get in touch with, I'm sure I'll send you the links or whatever, but there's definitely a channel. I think Jeff Crenshaw handles a lot of that as far as, season tickets, things like that, or John Hogan, obviously, or me, whoever is on the coaching staff. I can send you those after the show. I don't have them on hand, but just definitely get in touch. If not, I'm sure they have the schedules at the rink, and you should go check it out anyway.
Yeah, that's right. I agree with that. Luke, I really appreciate you coming on. Go Maryville Saints, I guess, is how we'll end this interview.
Go Maryville Saints, that's right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So again, I want to thank Luke for coming on. Really fun talking to him, and I hope to have him on again in the future. And anyone else from any college, again, I know I said before that if you would like to, if you're a semi-famous person, hey, that includes colleges. You want to come on and promote your program, we'd love to have you. So if you're listening, or if you know somebody who maybe is a head coach somewhere, we'd love to have you on the show. We got nothing but time to kill, right? Until the season comes back, because it is coming back. Okay? It is. Come on. We'd love to have you. Again, just follow us, find us over on any social media channel, Let's Go Blues Radio. You can also find me on Twitter at jponder94. Send me a message. Let me know if you'd like to come on and have a little conversation. Love to have you. Again, we have nothing but time on our hands right now, right? Hopefully you're all staying sane. Thank you for watching. I want to go ahead and end this with letting you know how you can get in touch with everybody of the show. Of course, the show Twitter is at LGB Radio. Kurt Price is at Kurt Price. Bill Day is at Billy Blue Note. And as I already told you, myself, Jeff Ponder, can be found at jponder94. We're also on all social media channels, so make sure you find us on Instagram, Facebook, Friendster, MySpace. We're not on TikTok yet. I'm waiting for Kurt to allow me to record his sexy dance moves, but he's still holding out on me on that. So I'll keep working on him though. That'll be a good time. As far as our next show, stay tuned. Again, we don't know exactly when the next show is going to be, how it's going to be recorded, what we're going to do. Kurt, Bill, and I have been kind of brainstorming ideas together all week. So there's a couple fun ideas that we're planning that could be really awesome. Some of it might involve beers in NHL 94. We will see. But yeah, we'll keep shelling out shows for you every week, so make sure you listen. But as for now, that will conclude this episode. Everyone, hope you're all safe. Hope you're all happy. And again, just let's get through this together. We're all in this together. Everyone in the world right now. So let's just let's not fight on social media. I say that, of course, I know that that's just going to happen anyway. But either way, let's try and show a little love towards each other, everybody. So, on behalf of Kurt Price and Jeff Ponder, I'm Bill Day. Thank you for tuning in. And of course, everybody, let's go Blues.